This generation under so much pressure, held to a standard impossible to measure. Without guidance, they suffer. No father in sight, no love from their mother. Not the fin for the one in the mirror. Self-image distorted, can't get no clearer. Damn, lost souls devoured by the streets. Ain't no fairy tales or yellow bricks by their feet. Only crack vials and shell casings. Looking for hope, but they still waiting. And I implore you to never give up. And like Pac said, keep your head up, and when your back's up against the wall, keep your boots to the ground and stand tall. Hold on and be strong and go against all odds, and keep your faith in God.
Welcome all to the Liberated Mind Show. We are your host, Kay. He is James, and me, I'm Maurice. Thank you so much for joining us. And now we're going to highlight Black businesses.
All right, first we got a good brother, Hassan McCain's debut book titled Reflections from Inside. It's a collection of poetry that is a raw expression of depression, abuse, and perseverance that was written while he was actually serving time in the Ohio jail cell. And this book is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and anywhere that books are sold. Next we have a sister who has she has actually 2 salons, but they're currently closed down right now for due to COVID. But she also sells organic hair products. The name of the business is Solara Naturals, and her mission is to provide natural blends of oils, vitamins, and minerals, which is a wonderful alternative to harsh chemical-filled products. And you can get these products at solaranaturals17.com. All right, so today's topic is a tough one, very emotional. We're going to be discussing the lynching of Ahmaud Arbery that took place on February 23rd, 2020. And crazy enough, an arrest wasn't even made until May 7th. And there was actually a graphic video that was released, and this was actually the reason that led to the arrest being made. I believe if the videos weren't released, it wouldn't have been no arrest made. So let's get into this topic. Let me ask my fellow host right here. Should the release of videos like Ahmaud's that shows us being slaughtered be a call to arms for our community, or is it adding to the PTSD that makes it so difficult to have unity?
Okay, I don't mind tackling this one first. I would say it should certainly be a factor in the call to arms. For me, that one is without question. But also, it is nuanced. It does add to the trauma, the PTSD. But that's not to say that it shouldn't add to the PTSD. When something like that happens as a community, we should all feel it on a very, I'd say, emotional level, in my opinion, because it's something. He is us. He is the 3 of us specifically. He is the 3 of us exactly. Something like this could have happened to any one of us. This was someone's son. This could have been someone's dad. Could have been someone's brother. So I feel that I don't think there's no good that can come out of the video being produced. I think the fact that the video was produced and there was the uproar from the video is why we have some action now, personally. And to go back to anyone that would, the 3 of us, I believe the 3 of us agree that this is a lynching, but to kind of stave off anybody who disagree, I just want to read the definition of a lynching real quick. It's to kill someone for an alleged offense with or without trial, usually by mob action. In this case, you had really 3 assailants, the 2 gunmen and the 1 cameraman who also had a gun behind. Long story. Well, we all know the story. So I think without question, this definitely falls into the definition of a lynching. So the fact that we can call it what it is gives power to those of us that would normally feel voiceless about that. So that's my long answer shortened.
Okay. What about you, Kay?
I mean, I agree 100%. It's definitely a wake up call, and it should be on America's radar. But we know there's two different Americas, and that that is what fuels this and allows things like this to occur every day. It's just that, as we see, like you said, this occurred back in February, and it took till May for these assailants or for these suspects to be detained, and that was by way of not necessarily them wanting to, you know, introduce justice, but it was a call from the people via social media. Without
Mhm.
social media, backwards towns like those, stuff like that happens daily. As we just saw, we had that new video that showed about 3 years ago. He had some encounter with a police officer while he was minding his business, and
Yeah.
the thing that stuck out to me the most with that video was when that officer, the second one, the second officer came on site and immediately went to try and tase him. Um, Lord willing, it malfunctioned, but I believe I don't know how much more this does. To answer the second part of that question, it does bring on PTSD as a point because we're seeing this on the daily. It used to be from time to time, but now it's like every day. I search through a web browser, cases like this showing up left and right, and it does put us in a state of shell shock, in my opinion. When dealing with these types of traumas. So yeah, that's my short long answer.
Got you. So I agree with both of you brothers. So if that being said, like it's still some of us in our community, some of our brothers and sisters in our community that's still on that. I'm just going along just to get along. So how do you get them on that point where this is actually traumatic to them as well? And it also makes them want to, get that call to arms and be ready to like actually speak up and do something.
So
So
you just said,
go ahead,
go
Kay.
ahead. So I just wanted to clarify that question. So you're asking what would fuel those people to finally see what's taking place, or like what
Yeah,
exactly?
just to what would it take to get them to stop walking around with their eyes wide shut?
Uh, Unfortunately, I can't even answer that because every year since most recently, every year since like the Trayvon Martin
Mm-hmm.
tragedy,
Yep.
I would say this is the one. This is the one. And how many have we had since then?
Too many to count.
Yeah, he's exactly right. Because the the Trayvon Martin one is the jump off point to me. Obviously, there were many black men and black children and black women. They've been being murdered unjustly for that, but that was so visceral. That was so present, and
Mhm.
which should have been such an open and closed case. They found a way to demonize a child, and then it just kept happening. Hey, Michael Brown, kid walking by himself. The gentleman in New York being choked out for selling Lucy
Mhm.
cigarettes, like demonizing what should be normal behavior. Sandra Bland, rest her soul, her telling on the screen, "Hey, I'm never going to kill myself. I'm not going to do that." Then all of a sudden, where does she end up? Like
Yeah.
Philando Castillo,
Mhm.
he registered gun owner, did everything he's supposed to, reaching like the officer. They've found they keep finding ways to execute us. And even sometimes they don't finish the job. So you have a man prone laying on the ground with his hands to his side wide, and somehow he still ends up getting shot.
Uh,
So they keep finding a way. We have if to me, like I don't know the answer to how do you get to everyone to open their eyes, because we've been in every situation to where we are the victim to any type of action. And the one highlighted case where it was a black cop and a non-black victim, that dude is sitting behind bars right now
with the quickness.
When someone technically she came running up to the car. Like, so
Yep.
I don't know. I personally don't know the answer to that one. I would love to. I'm hoping we're going to figure it out.
Okay. All right, so I'm sure that you've both seen like their running lists on social media of things that you can't do while black. Doesn't this list ultimately just come down to pretty much not being able to exist while being black?
Yeah, it's like Reese had pointed out before, they're able to like circumnavigate everything. I think it's just their way of discrediting our humanity. You know what I mean? So it's like things he said things you can do or can't do while being black, right? That started from the Constitution, because when you say all men are created equal, you've already highlighted that you don't view us as men, you don't view us as humans. Therefore, we're supposed to have no existence in this country. And believe it or not, we built this country. We've been here the longest, to top that off. But we're discredited at every stance, and when it's time to make things right, there's always some reason as to why black people don't deserve their reparations, or why this isn't a civil issue, or whatever the case is. I mean, we always get the short end of the stick. So, like I said, just like you said, it's just our existence, period. It all boils down to just our existence. They always say go back is their favorite chant. So I don't know. Maybe until then, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Reese, you got anything to add?
Nah, he said it. Kay said it precisely, in my opinion.
Okay. All right, I got a second part to that question. If it's a problem with our mere existence, is conforming, as most people try to tell you to do, really worth it?
So, okay, I'm gonna ask this question. I'm gonna end up saying no. Like that's me personally. I don't feel like it. I don't feel that's the answer, because no matter how much you conform, I feel like, because the systematic oppression, the everything that's set against us, the history we have with this land, people's mindsets against us, no matter how much conforming we do as a race, it's still going to be that gap, that chasm. Let's take a group that considers themselves, or they be considered by other groups as the model minority, Asian Americans, having kind of a tough time as far as racial relations right now in this country, because everyone believes, hey, you're the reason why what's happening right now with COVID-19 and everything. And they do everything supposedly by the book, by the model minority book. And yet something happens and bam, look at where their standing is. Now, is their standing still better than African Americans on a whole? Yeah. It is what it is, but that just, to me, that signals a flaw in the system rather than a flaw like us needing to conform to them.
What about you, Kay?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Conformity, just cut me off, or just tell me yes or no. Did we conform when it came to language? Did we conform when it came to religion? Do we conform when it's time for a job interview and the way we must groom our hair? We conform. What has conformity done? It set us backwards. That's about it. That's the only thing I can see. We left all that we were taught once our ancestors were enslaved and enslaved and brought here, excuse me.
Yep.
And since then, when haven't we been conforming? We comply. We do everything that they say we should, and yet the outcome's always the same. So,
Yeah,
what's the common denominator there?
you got a point. Yeah, but it's crazy because on the one hand, we can see that, like us right now, we can see what it is, but then social conditioning is so deep within our society that some people will still say, yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta conform. You gotta, try to be like the quote unquote dominant society or whatever. But it's like, you don't have to. There's alternate ways around it, but we don't have unity. We don't have that common bond, and we don't have that trust in each other to move ahead and get, get ahead from that conditioning that we've been subjected to for years, hundreds of years.
But we have to ask ourselves, why is that? Why is there a lack of unity? Been programmed that way, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's whenever there's an issue that affects us as a community. Most recently, one that comes to mind is even in the fight for reparations. Look at how divided we are amongst that. People saying, well, if you're not A, B, and C, stay away. What do they call it? ADOS, matter of fact.
Yeah, ADOS, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, I'll just break it down as far as how I see that. It's like I was always for reparations, and my father's side, Nigerian, my mother's side is from the U.S. But at the end of the day, what side of the fence should that put me in? It's like, okay, you have to pick and choose. I don't see it that way. I see us as one blood. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, if you have people that have been here that built this country, why are you starting to nitpick on this person and that person? Right now, the goal is to get something on the books. So we'll find reasons like that. We'll find this person, they're Christian, I'm Muslim, whatever the case is. We always find ways to divide ourselves, so that unity is never truly there. Even if you're from the same city, people will say, "Well, I'm from North Philly, I'm from South." You know what I mean? So it's just how we are. Like the Europeans will call it tribalism, but except for when it comes to them, because you notice they never refer to a German as a German tribe or whatever. But whatever, that's another story. My whole point is, it's like we get into these little spats that always take attention off what the main objective is. And it's been programmed. We suffer from menticide. It's the mental rape of a people. Bottom line.
Yeah, that's true, man. It's crazy, man. It's so much division, like light skin, dark skin, blood, Crips.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It don't make no sense. It's like we all fighting the same struggle. Like we you know what I'm saying? We all dealing with the same stuff. Like you can, even if you choose to ignore it, you still going through the same thing. It don't matter. If we black, we all going through it.
Sure are.
You can try to act like you not, just because you may have some friends here and there that don't look like you. But when you're not around, I guarantee you're the laughing stock. Or I guarantee they're making some kind of racist joke about you or something like that. So don't think that you're above anyone. Especially like, come on, like we all black, so we all feel the same pain. We all bleed through the same veins. You know what I'm saying? Like this is what it is. It's like you just gotta wake up, man. It's tough.
I agree. I definitely agree, and I think so I want to go back to something that we talked about earlier. You brought it up, community. What's a working definition for community? Because as we know, all skinfolk ain't kinfolk, even though they should be. Like so how are we defining community in this context?
You want to take that, Kay?
I'll take a stab at that. I mean, like you broke that down as far as skin folk and kinfolk. That's what makes it difficult. Because when I say community, I speak about African American community. You know what I mean? And as far as I know, anybody that would not have passed that paper bag test would be considered community. But you always have those double agents when it comes to anything in life. When it comes down to anything, so that is another. That's a good question. That's just another object in the way that we're always gonna have those double agents like whatever that girl's name is, Candace Owens. People like that who are paid agents, and they're just put there as props, as mascots for white supremacy, and just to say, look, why can't y'all be like that? You know, just speak and just promote their hatred, just with a black face. So, unfortunately, until those people show their true colors, I mean, this is how they always take down. Like today, who's behind James right now? Who does he have there? How did he get taken down? We know you always have people infiltrating. So, like I said, unfortunately, it's not unfortunate, but I view it as African Americans, not necessarily just African Americans. I mean, that's what we're saying, but I'm referring to all black people under the sun within these United States. At the end of the day.
Yeah, good. And it's crazy because, like, for example, we got what's her name, Omarosa. She was one of those. She was a big time agent, right? And then soon as her master kicked her ass to the curb, she started coming back to our side, trying to be all part of the community. And it's like we have, in all honesty, and I hate to say it, in all honesty, we have to keep the community on lock. Once somebody shows who they are as being an agent, we can't let them back in. We can't.
I would tend to agree with you, but our track record shows us that for the most part, we let them on back in if they ask a little bit. If they ask a little bit, hey, can we come back in? Like, okay, come on back in. And we're such an embracing and loving people. Somebody not of our race does something that's generally considered of our race. We're like, oh, you're in the cookout and everything. Like we're such a people ready to embrace others very, very quickly.
And it's so easy. It's so easy. It really is. Be like, oh, you can do that dance? Oh, come to the cookout.
Come to the cookout.
Like really?
Hey, you carry nachos in your pocket purse? Come on.
Yeah, come on. You're definitely one of us.
Every time.
I'm like, that's we got to get on one accord. That's where the unity and community comes in. You have to unite physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially. We got to get on one accord, because if we're not on one accord, it's never gonna work, and we're gonna stay at the status quo, and they're gonna keep doing what they're doing, and we're gonna keep being conditioned. We're gonna keep getting forced against each other, going to war. Like, we go to war with each other way more than we go to war with anybody else.
Way more. So let me, if I can throw something out there too. I just, in addition to Ahmaud Arbery, I want to say rest in peace to Breonna Taylor as well. She was a young lady, as we know, that was gunned down when their apartment was bum rushed by the police, who, according to many reports, did not identify themselves, broke down the door. It was the wrong house anyway, period. That can't be escaped. And she was shot 20 times. And, yes, the gentleman that was with her was exercising his rights as the Constitution and the amendments put out. And now she is dead, and they're missing a daughter who was, by all accounts, an upstanding citizen. And where's the justice in that? I doubt there will be, because they were police, and it's more of them than there is them, and it's going to happen. So I just want to say rest in peace and for her, and I hope that somehow the machine can get behind that too and make something happen, at least bring it to light. But I have my doubts past us feeling bad about it that anything's going to get done.
Yeah, definitely. Rest in peace. Sean King and Lee Merritt, they're actually on that case as well. So they're, pursuing, I guess, justice. I hate to use that because it's not real justice, because she lost her life to something senseless.
Exactly.
And they said, according to Sean King, every inch of their apartment was shot up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was bullets through the food in the kitchen.
My God.
And everything was shot up. And the guy, he fired back because they didn't identify themselves as cops, and now he's being charged, and they got him in prison.
It's ridiculous. It's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, but I also feel I'm skeptical, and this is why I'm skeptical. I feel like they're going to do, Sean and Lee, they're going to do everything they can, but I feel the nation's like, well, we already kind of gave you Ahmaud Arbery. We can't, come on, it's got to be one or the other. This is the cause that you're going to have to pay attention to. We're going to sweep that one under the rug. That's just my personal feeling. I really, really, really hope to be wrong there, but that is how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
They can't give us too many at one time.
It's unfortunate, man. It's crazy.
Has the NRA spoke out on this one yet?
Well, you know it's crickets, bro. They never gonna speak out on that.
Oh man. Can I back to leaders, right? Because it all comes back to leaders. The man behind you was such a transcendent leader, once in a generation, once in a lifetime, once in a millennia, whatever you like to call it. That's what he was. Speaking of our leaders, the leaders in the community, the very vocal ones, it seems like what I've noticed is when one gains some steam, something always seems to go wrong. There's one today that's very prominent, not quite as prominent as he was. I'm sure we're all familiar with him being from Philadelphia. Dr. Umar Johnson, right? Very, very smart, very effective public speaker, very charismatic. Some of the videos that have been shown about him seemed as if he was being shepherded into a cult of personality. And when those type of things happen, those that were taking you more seriously or could be thought of as taking you more seriously start taking you less seriously. For example, there was a video where he was like, pay homage to your king, talking about himself. And it's like, that's probably not, that's not going to bring everybody in. Some people are going to be like, that's a little weird. How do we identify our leaders that can take it to that next level, and how do we protect them once they get to a certain point? It would be my question.
It's a good question.
Yeah. You want to go first, Kay?
Okay. That's a nice question there, Reese. I think unfortunately, this all goes back to programming. We've always been told not to trust one another. That's always been what it is. That's what it boils down to. I followed Dr. Umar for some years now. As far as he goes, I stand with his message. As of lately, it's funny, me and my cousin has had this discussion, man. His ego has gotten to him, Anytime something's going on, he's definitely going through something. And to say that he
Certainly.
specializes in mental health, he should seek out, you know, the help he needs at this point, because what he's doing is becoming a caricature of himself.
Mm.
And I mean, I've seen the videos of him saying, "Yo, this is the person's address. Somebody go pull up on him." I mean, stuff like that is
Wow.
what gets you
Wow.
upset. It doesn't matter how many things he said that are beneficial
Yeah.
to us. It's that one eyesore. We've always been taught to um to focus on a weakness,
Mm-hmm.
anything in life, whether it be, you know, sports, academically, whatever the case is. So they will focus on that and beat that with a dead horse. So unfortunately, when it comes to Dr. Umar Johnson, I think he's his worst enemy. Actually, I don't think it's necessarily the people that discredit him. I think it's his own actions. I think his ego got in the way, because there are times his mission to build a school with Afrocentric curriculum, build our men up. Who wouldn't love that idea? And you have to think, why isn't someone like Diddy pumping money into that? It's because you can't get close enough to people like that who have erratic behavior, because they'll say that's a reflection of you. Because we see what LeBron's done. No disrespect to LeBron, but the curriculum there isn't focused on us, if you get what I'm saying. So that's why a school like what Dr. Umar Johnson's been preaching, it's ideal, but at the same time, how can one man try to take on all of that by himself? It's like he doesn't want people to come in to help make this more than just a dream, make it a reality. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that is. See, I know that it was a broad question. It wasn't, you know, specific to just him, but like I said, I've been following him for years, and I've been disappointed in some of his actions lately. But like I said, the message is what I focus on. But I can see why there are people that his detractors are very vocal now. So yeah, that's what I got to say on that.
And that's the shame about what happened with him, like you were saying, because for a while there, the detractors, all they had was, well, we just disagree with him because, like, he was so thorough and so knowledgeable and so on point that you can't really argue or you could argue his message, but you can't really argue it on merit, you know, in my opinion. But and they're like, oh, see, look, he's messy, he's sloppy, this, that, and the other. He's got an ego, and now it distracts from the message, like you were saying.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and then on the other hand, you go from that where he's being self-destructive to someone like Sean King, who doesn't take a dime from anybody. He's like genuinely out there doing the work, brings light to a lot of these cases. He's attacked for, they say he's not black. They say that they try to say that he takes money from the victims that he's helping. None of this has ever been proven.
No.
And then he gets death threats by the thousands every week. And like it's a concerted effort to destroy him. But it's like because we have social media now, it's like going through social media. Like it's like a concerted effort through social media. I don't know how much money they're using, but they're trying to sabotage this man. Like literally, like they're using every tactic possible through social media to bring him down and stop his cause. And this is crazy. Like this is a prime example of someone that's out there being selfless. And you can see that some force is out to get him. And it's some of us, it's some of our skin folk, and it once again brings back to the every brother ain't a brother that believes what this machine is telling them. Like, yeah, he's not really black. Oh yeah, he's taking money from the families. Like, when was that ever said? None of the families that he's helped have ever come out and spoken ill of any of the work that he's doing.
Right.
So that's something that's really interesting what you bring up, because I do remember that about him too. Like when they're trying to discredit him, and that leads me to I know we're all thinking, who is they? Like, who is the they? Because we've seen where Russia flooded the whole entire country with propaganda and did whatever it did. So I'd be very interested to find out, because it's obviously a they behind all of this.
Yeah.
Who is that they? Because I feel like if we know generally why they're trying to do this, because so it's Discord, it does a lot of things for whatever their agenda is. But I feel like if we knew the specific they, we could get so much more. We could find out what's really going on. Like what's okay. Because I always feel like when we're watching the right hand so often, we're not paying attention to the left hand is doing, like magic. They're like, hey, look at this, while they're taking money out your wallet and putting it in theirs. And like, there's the trick. And we're like, oh man, that's an amazing trick, not knowing that, oh, we've just been robbed. So we're always being distracted from the bigger picture here. It's the bigger picture isn't just justice for Ahmaud Arbery. It's it's needing to find a way to change the system completely, or at least giving ourselves the tools to be in a better position moving forward, so these situations don't happen to us again. Because invariably we're mad until the next thing happens, but they happen so fast, like Kay said earlier, that it's just like, okay, now on to the next thing we're mad at. Let's make a Facebook post about it. Let's go and create a Facebook avatar and move on to whatever else is the newest thing, the next big thing.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? Like, y'all both know, like, for years, I've been trying to shed light on stuff, and I put out a certain message through my social media. For years, I've been receiving messages from people where they're afraid to post something on their social media, so they'll send it to me to post. And this has been going on for like years, and I'm like, and I never question them, but it always brings to the back of my mind. I'm like, what makes you afraid to speak up for something that you're supposed to speak up for? Like,
right.
What's in your mind that has you that fearful that you'll rather go through me because you know that I'll post anything I want? Like, what holds you back from just sharing some information and speaking on a situation that affects you? Because people can say that something doesn't affect them, but it does. If it impacts one of us, it's going to impact all of us.
All of us, every last one.
No matter if it's in your face or not, it just is. And that's something that's always been like interesting to me. I receive like at least one message a week like that.
I mean, I think the same thing can be said as far as why is it when we say, hey, let's go ahead and boycott X, Y, and Z, you always have those that are like, well, I don't see how me doing that's going to change anything. Or case in point, the NFL, the most obvious one, right? With Colin Kaepernick, we know what he was kneeling for. He stated what he was kneeling for. Excuse me. But somehow the whole scenario was changed and flipped into he was anti-America, this, that, anti-military, anti-everything. So that was a way for people to feel comfortable and saying, I enjoy my football anyway. You know what? Nah. What's he can do that off the field. Why is he bringing that up? It's because his stats weren't A, B, and C. We've heard all the excuses, but people are too comfortable with their situation now. And that's something that I've always felt like if we wanted things to be better for us as a people, like you said earlier, James, as far as financial freedom we would need. And I think we should have their financial freedom, buy some land over in Africa, make your own country. All Africans here in the U.S., buy land in Africa, have your own country. It's not going to be comfortable. We won't enjoy it, but at the end of the day, we know our grandchildren will enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't worry about your comfort right now, because
Yeah.
guess what? How many more generations are going to go on like this?
Yeah. That's a good point, man.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That is a great point.
Going back to the Kaepernick thing, another thing that people were saying was, oh, he got money from the NFL, so he just did it for a payday without knowing the details of what the payday meant. He got the money for lost wages because they forced him out of the league and then proceeded to whiteball him and prevent him from making the wages that he would have made. So he got money that he was duly deserved and should have been paid. So it wasn't like he kneeled and his whole purpose was just to get money. When he kneeled for a reason, and he knew it was going to be repercussions, but then he didn't expect it to be a concerted effort to then proceed to block him out of the league. Like, you can't do that. You just can't. You can't do that and then expect to get away with it. And the fact that the NFL settled, it shows that they were guilty of it. It's not showing any guilt on his part. It's showing that the NFL were guilty and they admitted guilt. And the non-disclosure agreement wasn't his. They made that happen because then they would have had to show their cards. Like, yeah, this is who did it. These are all the people that agreed to do it. Boom, boom, boom. And it's like, my problem with it was that people weren't willing to give up however many weeks, 18 Sundays, and just not watch it for this brother who stood up and sacrificed his life. You know what I'm saying? Like, football was his life since he was younger. He gave up all of that to like protest and show passion for a cause that affects all of us. And then in turn, all of us couldn't return the love. And I'm like, really? Couldn't do it for 4 months? You couldn't just not look at a game? You just couldn't do it. It's crazy, man. People still refuse to do it. I be getting questions, like, when I bring it up, I get questions like, oh, y'all still doing that? What you mean, y'all? You black too, right?
Yeah. So we've seen the memes. I'm sure we're all on social media, but it's just so incredibly, like, just cosmically funny. It's cosmically ironic that he's vilified for peacefully protesting by kneeling. And there are people that are marching up to state buildings with guns and threats and everything. And they are seen by many as patriots.
Yeah.
That it's not surprising to any of us because we know the game, we know how it is, but it's still just it's very disappointing to see. It's okay, great. And Kaepernick did sacrifice his life, like you said, because, hey, guess what? Even if he was a career backup from that point on, he still would have been making so much money as a backup QB in the league. And his skill set is at least better than most of the backups in the NFL to this very day. So he still would have been being paid very handsomely if he had just shut up and been a football player. Just don't give to charity. That's how you can protest. Give to charity. Do it silently. Don't mess with our product. Don't cause distractions from these gladiators hitting each other. And it's just the con is in, man. And I feel like when you take a step back and you look at it, and you're like, really? It's really disappointing.
And it's proven that patriotism was bought at the military, I think specifically the Army. their recruiting was down low. That's why they said, "Hey, let's give you some money, and then we can do this, national anthem at the beginning. Make sure the players are out now. Before that wasn't even a thing, but they still. It doesn't matter. You have those extreme right wingers, not even extreme nowadays, just right wingers. Period. They'll go out of their way and vilify anything that's conducive to us.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's and then like after he was whiteballed, he still proceeded to keep his word, and he donated to all these different organizations. Donated his time, created an organization, Know Your Rights campaign, and all of that, and people still couldn't get behind him. And I'm like, I don't understand it. And it's like, I don't know if people would get behind any leader. Like if the people today existed back in the 60s, I don't think that Malcolm or Martin or any of the leaders back then would have had any support. And it's crazy. It's crazy to think that, like, the bus boycott wouldn't have happened because people would have been calling Rosa Parks crazy.
And I need to get to work. Sorry.
Yeah, like
I hear you, sis, but
like,
I need to. Yeah, I could totally see that. So then let me ask you something. If any of these, because I consider a lot of our leaders from the past to be transcendent. If any of these leaders were dropped in today's environment, would they flourish? Like, would they be what they were then, even with all their transcendence, because of all the things that we notice about us today?
I don't think they'd be successful today. Just for the mere fact that we have search engines like Google, where everyone has it on their phone, and you tell somebody just do some simple research, they refuse. It's right there. I mean, what I've always heard is that the civil rights era afterwards, they didn't pass the baton. That's always been the excuse I've heard. But I think the baton was passed. It's just that we were too comfortable. We thought the race was over, so we didn't continue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like growing up. It's like growing up entitled, privileged and stuff. It's like, all right, I'm comfortable. What? Yeah, I could do a little better, but I'm comfortable. I can live like this, and I think that's why we're so stagnant today.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Reese.
No, I just think it's interesting. You said we thought the race was over when the other side is still running to this very day. They're like, oh no, we're winning this race. We're never going to lose this race. You can quit if you want, but we're always for you. You look in history, right? It's always been the group in charge's best interest for things to stay that way. And they always do try to do things to stay that way. Usually it's their own hubris that outdoes them, or there's an uprising from the group that's not. Or many groups that have been downcast and downtrodden by the leading group. But they're like, hey, we're in charge. And they can be subpar and not excellent because it's so many of them in positions of power and influence that listen, yeah, we still got you, just we'll take care of you. We have that system. They have that system in place, and it's been perfected over generations. So it's just right there. We stopped running. We stopped running as a unit. Some of us still kept running, like, no, we still have this race, but everyone's like, nah, I'm going to take a cab to somewhere else. We're done with this race. I'm comfortable enough. I'm good.
Yeah. And to add to Kay's point, I believe that civil rights, they tried to hand the baton off, and the people that were comfortable did drop it. And then you had the Black Panthers come along. They picked it up. But then agents destroyed them from the inside. So the baton is locked away in Fort Knox now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like somebody tried to take the baton, but they destroyed them. They destroyed the Black Panthers from within. And it's like that baton is nowhere to be found now. Those concerted efforts to destroy the leaders of those at that time, it was so powerful and so strong that I think it got people to that point that you were speaking of about being comfortable, but it also created so much fear. And when you got so much fear in people, it's easier to control them, i.e. religion. Right. Religion is based on fear. If people aren't afraid, they're not going to follow.
All right. You know what? Everything you said just takes me so many different directions, but I want to. I want what as a community we should be doing is to stay on task. So I'm going to stay on task, but in the future, there's a couple of topics that I think we definitely need to chop up. But going back to something we talked about earlier, something you definitely said with the the financial empowerment, the centers of influence, et cetera, et cetera. I fully believe there are ways to do it. We've seen other groups execute this flawlessly to at least have their own center of influence and power. Take Philadelphia, for example, Chinatown. Chinatown has their own council person, their own financial institutions, their own schools, their own supermarkets. They have everything. Like they can venture out of the community if they want, but anything they need, anything and everything they need is within that community, to the point where like the fire and police department kind of got to get the okay from them to be in that community, sort of thing. So that, to me, they've been able to build a powerful model here within this US. And they're like technically the last group to come over or whatever. And there's reasons they're well resourced. They know how to pull together as a family, as a family in the large sense of the word. But I'm saying, for like, we have a very recent example of it's possible. Now, I don't know how probable it is for us, but it is a thing. It is a possibility.
It comes down. It's a few things with that. Number one, it comes down to mental slavery. How free do you want to be really in your mind? If you're on lockdown in your mind and you want to stick to these specific guidelines and you don't want to venture out of that, it's going to be harder to get somebody to change their direction and want to unify. Chinatown, they have one huge advantage. Whenever one of the citizens from China immigrate here, they get $10,000 from China. So they come here with money. So if a group of them come here, let's say 5 of them, they have $50,000 that they can use. And if they start a business, they get 5 years of that business being tax-free. So it's advantages that aren't really, that we don't have. That's why they can come over here. They can build a whole community. They can get all these stores, and then after 5 years, they'll just transfer it over to somebody else, and then they'll get 5 years tax-free.
Now, we certainly don't have them. But I'll ask this: is there a way we can create those? And Kay, forgive my ignorance on this one, but what I've learned from some of my African brothers and sisters, some of my Caribbean brothers and sisters, is they have a similar system to that, as far as like they'll pull their money together and support a family that's coming over there in some sort of lottery system, or et cetera, et cetera. And doing not to that same effect as having a whole nation behind you, but having like a community behind you, like a neighborhood or something like that. I have heard of something like that within certain black diasporic communities. Have either of you ever heard of those things or?
I've heard slightly like about, you know, communities pulling together for like a family or something like that. But I don't know if it's on that scale, like you said, with
Right.
like a government.
Oh, certainly
Setting
not a
you up.
government. No. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, it's like my block. The people on my block, or like we all support each other. So it's a certain amount of time. We all put money in that pot. It's June. Okay, this family gets that. We do it again till it gets up to a certain point. All right, it's August. All right, now that family gets that. And what they use that money for is to, from what I've been told, help build credit, help put together the funds for down payments on houses, help open businesses, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I've heard of something similar with like Indians in grad school.
100%.
Right, one of my classmates is from India, and he asked me, "You have your green card?" I said, "I'm a citizen." He's like, "Well, why are you in school?" I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I'm only here so I can get some type of money, but I'm going back to India." But the thing is, when we come here, like you were talking about that loan, they do get some type of loan that they're not paying like taxes on or whatever. He says first thing we do is buy like a gas station or something. And then excuse me, and then even with a like within like medical school and all of that, even let me not speak on that, but in grad school they work together even in grad school. And then I was told when it's time to buy a house, India sponsors, I guess they have their own bank here for their citizens, like somebody of Indian descent has their own bank, and India helps fund it. So the people, they put all their money in that bank, and then they're able to give low mortgage rates. And this is how they do their houses. And like you said, that pot will go around too, on top of that. So this is how everybody else moves forward. It's not individualism that works. You know what I mean? And I think that's a problem. It's always, they say, well, oh, you good? You think you too good for us? And then you out, and then you just forgot all about us. I think that's the problem, evolving problem. But yeah, all these other cultures, they seem to work on like the excuse my daughter, on like group level.
Yeah, group economics.
Definitely.
Yeah, we don't. That's the thing, man. We gotta. It's a shame we got so much work to do, because in order for us to get to the point that group economics will work, we have to first love each other. Then we gotta trust each other. Then we gotta build. Then we gotta build foundations, like with each other, so we can like be solid. Then we gotta unify.
Definitely.
And then we gotta come
100%.
together with our resources and funds. Like it's like, we're like 100 years behind everybody. Like seriously with this, and
Absolutely,
it's crazy because it's like it's been a concerted effort, and not enough people have seen it. That they purposely got it where we won't want to join together, and they purposely like infuse this hatred amongst us, and then they try to force us into the areas that's like stricken with poverty, and then you're gonna be forced to kind of follow your environment. And once you're in that environment that's filled with hopelessness and despair, it's hard to come up out of that. And people confuse being broke with being poor. Poor is a mindset. Broke is temporary, and you can choose if you want to break the cycle of being broke. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, and that's just it. You're very right about forcing people into certain communities. Redlining is a thing. Like that was a policy of many of all the financial institutions at one point in time. That was they were they had it in their bylaws. Redlining. Let's make sure these people like Levittown had it in its inception. No black people allowed. Like there were not to be any black people. That was in their legal structure that you couldn't sell. You couldn't resell your home to a black family. Like that's what they did purposely. So they herd us into these communities, and it does create a sense of helplessness and everything. It's because these communities aren't as well resourced as other communities. Period.
Yeah.
The only time they get well resourced as other communities is when the communities start to change.
Exactly.
Which we don't. We don't even need to get into
Brooklyn.
that. Yeah. Oh.
Brooklyn has been changed forever.
Yes, Brooklyn's very changed now. Brooklyn, it's not nearly this. It's not the same at all. I was sad last time I went to Brooklyn. I was like, oh, yeah. It's such a when Harlem's not Harlem anymore. That hurts my soul. That hurts my soul, honestly.
Yeah, because there was so much history there, like the Renaissance and everything. Like it's so much rich history there, and it's like it's like wiped away.
Mm-hmm.
But that brings me to something my cousin and I were speaking on the other day. Right there off it's not Lehigh, it's not Broad Lehigh. Where was Fraser's gym?
Oh, where was that? Oh my God, what street is that?
Well,
it wasn't Glenwood, was it?
Glenwood, yeah.
Yeah.
So it just brings me to that. Anytime I drive by that and I see that furniture store there, to this day, I don't understand how we have Danny Garcia, we have Bernard Hopkins, especially. That's another story. But I don't understand how they allowed something like that to happen. I'm not sitting up here passing blame on them, because I know that the city didn't protect it as a historical place.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that's on the city, but at the same time, those within that business, that looked up to Joe Frazier, being from the city of Philly. Why didn't they step in and intervene to save that gym? And we can't always say, hey, these people gentrifying and there's nothing I can do, because that place ain't gentrified.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And that was all on us to stop that.
Yeah.
So it's like we gotta step in and say, hey, we're gonna take care of what's ours. Do what you're gonna do, but you're gonna want this as bad as we do at one point, though.
Yeah.
Because once they see that we ain't doing anything to that we're doing our all to make sure nothing happens, then they'll know what time it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. It's crazy.
I think it's a great point. I think that's an excellent point. There was a case where those that did have resources that should have been really connected to something like that, it went through the cracks for whatever reason. But that should have been something that's a piece of history, a piece of Philly history, rich, deep, beautiful, and now it's a furniture store.
Yeah. And in a couple more years, it's going to be North Philly isn't going to exist. It's going to be Center City North.
Yeah, Temple East. Yeah,
it's like
Temple
combined
University.
with Temple. Temple is buying up all of North Philly, and they're slowly not just moving up Broad Street, but they're branching out.
Oh, they're
further.
They
So the projects that's been there for years. I don't even think they're there anymore. From last time I saw like
Nah,
all this
no,
construction going on.
Mm-hmm.
So much construction going on, so much, and it's. All right, never mind. That's.
It's a lot going on, man.
I would like to ensure that the people that need to benefit the most from these changing neighborhoods do so. It does not feel like that is the case, is all I'm saying.
Mm-mm. They're being bought out of their houses for like pennies on the dollar. So they're not really, they're being forced out of the neighborhood. But where are they going to go? You give somebody $25,000 for their house. Where they gonna go? Like you can't find a livable house for $25,000. It's like, well, they just want them to go and put a down payment. Most of these people, you know what I'm saying, that down payment, yeah, it's gonna have them okay for a while. But what about after that? Like it's crazy, man. The whole damn system. It just needs an overhaul. Like it can't keep going the way it is. Like anything, like
Definitely.
Yeah, something's got to give at some point, and so
but that goes back to like early questions. What was the early question? Is this gonna be that wake up call? Like,
yeah,
we have all these signs around us. Like, what will it take? That's the thing. I can tell you. Apparently, we can tell you what it doesn't take. Everything that we've just described.
Mm-hmm.
So, what will it take? That's the unknown.
Yeah. And that's a question for you people, you watching. It's a question for you.
Yep.
What is it gonna take for you to wake up and see what's really going on and want to do something about it?
Besides just make a post.
Exactly. If you're gonna make a post, at least have some action behind it.
Exactly.
Under so much pressure, held to a standard impossible to measure. Without guidance, they suffer. No father in sight, no love from their mother. Not the fin for the one in the mirror. Self-image distorted, can't get no clearer. Damn, lost souls devoured by the streets.